This is Mr. Gion, and this is his country, Albania. Gion isn't exactly happy. He's surrounded by neighbours who don't accept his story, that his ancestors were the ancient Illyrians, the fierce and famous tribes of the old Balkans. His language and even his culture stand out quite a bit from those around him, but most of all, he clashes with his northern neighbour, Jovan. Onto Jovan's land Kosovo, Gion and his relatives gradually settled over the past 200 years. But Gion insists this land is actually his historical heritage, the legacy of the ancient so-called Illyrian Dardanians. The Balkans have always seemed complicated because until now no one has clearly explained the true roots of the Illyrian tribes or the ancestry of today's Croats, Serbs, Albanians and other nations. That changes today. If you keep watching this video, the beginning of our series, you'll witness the first fragments of the true story of the Illyrians and the hidden legacy that shaped the peoples of the Balkans. If you've ever taken even a passing interest in the history of the Illyrians, you've surely heard of their most famous Illyrian kingdom, ruled by the Ardiaei, also known as the Vardiei. Its power reached its height under King Agron and his legendary queen Teuta. But their story ends in tragedy. The Romans crushed them, and legend says Queen Teuta, in her final act of defiance, threw herself from the mountain peak. After their assimilation into Roman society, the Ardiaei vanished from history, never to be heard from again. The end. Or maybe not. Official history, or perhaps what lies behind it, never told us that the Vardiei had distant relatives far away through the similar pre-Roman period in northern Spain. They were called the Varduli. Strabo refers to them as the Bardiatai. And by the way, get ready, because this phonetic shift between B and V will turn up quite often. Among their towns, Pliny the Elder names Gabala and Alba, and curiously enough, inland from Lake Skodra, in area of modern Albania, the old Putinga map shows a place called Gabuleo. The close neighbours of the Varduli were the Autrigones, or simply the Utri, whom the Varduli eventually conquered. Meanwhile, the fiery neighbours of the Vardiei, back in the Balkans, were none other than the Ardiaei. Maybe I'm hallucinating. An academic authority would surely tell me these are all just coincidences. But let's move on. In northern Germany and Mecklenburg, once lived the famous Germanic tribe of the Langobards, neighbours of the Teutons. When Rome began to crumble, the Langobards seized the moment, finished them off, and took parts of Italy for themselves. Their name, pronounced differently in Italy, became Lombardy, but earlier they were known simply as Bardi, or Vardi. Isn't that interesting? Later writers reinterpreted the name as Longbeards, which is at best funny, and at worst completely wrong. But that's a story for another time. Historians also note that when the Germanic Bardi left Mecklenburg, their place was taken by the Slavic Obotrites, sometimes recorded as Oberdites. And guess what? They settled on exactly the same land, and even founded a town called Chabel, which phonetically we can translate as Gabel, for example, just like Joseph becomes Giuseppe in Italian. Now tell me, isn't that quite a coincidence? The Langobards, according to legend and written record, endured a long journey and many trials on their way to Italy, all seemingly guided by a higher purpose. Do you really think they arrived there by chance, as historians tell us? That they came only to seize spoils and find new lands? Or did they know exactly where they were going? To the very land of their ancestors, long ago defeated and absorbed by Rome. It is telling that the first Lombard king in Italy was Alboin, and soon after him, Authari took the throne, names that echo legendary tribes of Illyria. To close this first chapter, we must memorise the original name of the Lombards, the name upon which we will build our search for even deeper roots of the Ardiaei. All sources agree they once called themselves the Winnerly, and that name will lead us far to the east. To be continued.